Hello and welcome back to Humans in Society. This video focuses on the topic, The Seven Basic Plots, as written by Christopher Booker in 2004, under the subject, Creative Writing. The key thesis of the book is that, however many characters may appear in a story, its real concern is with just one, its hero or heroine. It is he with whose fate we identify as we see him gradually developing towards that state of self-realization which marks the end of the story. Ultimately, it is in relation to this central figure that all other characters in the story take on their significance. What each of the other characters represents is really only some aspect of the inner state of the hero or heroine themselves. The metaplot contains the parts of the seven basic plots. It begins with the anticipation stage, in which the hero is called to the adventure to come. It is followed by a dream stage, in which the adventure begins, and the hero has some success and has an illusion of invincibility. However, this is then followed by a frustration stage, in which the hero has his first confrontation with the enemy, and the illusion of invincibility is lost. This worsens in the nightmare stage, which is the climax of the plot, where hope is apparently lost. Finally, in the resolution, the hero overcomes his burden against the odds. Plot 1 is called Overcoming the Monster. The protagonist sets out to defeat an antagonistic force, often evil, which threatens the protagonist and or the protagonist's homeland. During the anticipation stage and call to adventure, the fearsome monster makes his presence known, often from a great distance, although occasionally more up close and personal. Its nature is base and vile, a picture of the dark side of humanity. To drive this home, it is highly alarming in its appearance and behavior, treacherous and deadly, ugly or ill-formed, and often something about its nature is mysterious, hard to define, elusive, shapeless, nightmarish. The monster may be humanoid, animal, or a combination of both. For example, a minotaur. During the course of the story, the monster may take on any of three basic roles. The predator that prowls around trying to find victims. The holdfast zealously guards a treasure or a princess, very suspicious of any strangers, but may be sleeping when the hero comes to claim it. Or an avenger. When the guardianship is in any way challenged, the monster rushes out to find and destroy those who've taken its treasure. The monster poses a grave threat. Who is going to stop him? The hero, who receives his call to adventure. If he's smart, he heads out immediately. And after all, who else is gonna kill that thing? During the dream stage, the hero prepares for battle while moving closer to the monster. Either he's heading out or the monster is approaching his home. But the danger is still comfortably remote, and everything seems to be working out okay. During the frustration stage, the monster shows up and shows off in all his awesome power. There is no contest here. No way the hero can beat a thing this strong. At this point, the hero seems to be slipping into the monster's power and may even fall helplessly into the monster's clutches. At the nightmare stage, it's time for the climactic battle. The odds seem to be against our hero, even surviving this fight. But of course, we know how these things turn out, right? At the resolution, the thrilling escape from death and the death of the monster will come. The monster's power is broken, and it dies. The people who had been under its power are liberated, and the hero emerges victorious. To symbolically complete the tale, the hero receives three things: a treasure, a kingdom, and a princess, and they all live happily ever after. The best examples of the horror movie monsters are these monsters from modern and classical horror movies. There can also be mythology and technology monsters from fantasy and science fiction movies. There are also the ancient magic and alien monsters. And finally, there's a question of who is the real monster in a battle of good and evil, and if the monster is a part of yourself. Plot 2 is called Rags to Riches, and it shows the poor protagonist acquiring things such as power, wealth, and a mate before losing it all and gaining it back upon growing as a person. A more modern spin on the plot is called the coming of age story, where it may skip the kingdom and downplay the rags aspect, as neither is something a modern reader would have much personal experience with, but the arc is otherwise the same. Key to this basic plot is the false ending, in which the hero appears to have gained her heart's desire, but it is too early, and she is too immature, so she loses it all, usually through some fault of her own. This loss is the most devastating blow to the hero prior to the story's climax. In the false ending, the hero may actually lose the thing he wanted completely, only to get a better thing by the end. The initial wretchedness at home and the call is contained in the anticipation stage. Far more than any other story, this is a story whose backbone is the hero's growth arc. We start with a very young hero in a lowly and unhappy state, usually at home. Antagonists of various sorts scorn or maltreat the hero, though that is merely the most obvious reason for her unhappiness. This lasts until she receives the call and either heads out or is sent out into the world. After a few minor ordeals, the hero gets a quick but limited success, some provision of their eventual glorious destiny. She may even meet her prince, may outshine her rivals, but she's not ready for this yet. It is pretty clear that she's got a long way to go toward maturity before she can truly succeed. Then the central crisis arrives, and everything suddenly goes wrong. Some of the dark figures from her past might reappear. The initial win is stripped away, and the hero is separated from that which she values most, especially her prince. The hero is overwhelmed with despair, and this is clearly their worst moment in the story. After losing everything, he's got to rely on his wits and his natural skills. No more easy outs, but in doing this on his own, he's developing his independence and proving that he is worthy of achieving his goal. After the ordeals that show off the hero's newfound strength, the hero must undergo one final test, one climactic battle against the big bad who stands between them and their goal. The resolution contains the final union, completion, and fulfillment. At last, the hero emerges victorious and lays claim to the treasure, the kingdom, and the prince. The best examples of rags to riches stories are the stories of Aladdin and Cinderella, as well as stories stories of coming of age like Wreck-It Ralph and Jerry Maguire. The third plot is called The Quest, wherein the protagonist and some companions set out to acquire an important object or to get to a location facing many obstacles and temptations along the way. It is the basic plot most likely to include a party instead of a lone hero. Booker allows for four basic party types: a close friend who is loyal but little else, a companion who is the hero's very opposite and usually displays opposite emotions for good or ill, a large group of faceless minions who die right and left as the story goes on, and often not a single one makes it out to the end, or a balanced party distinguished by skills, generally brains, brawn, and soul. Here, the hero may be counted among them, or may be less specialized and merely rely on them. During the call, the hero finds it impossible to remain at home. Often it's because the quest is to find a MacGuffin that will save his hometown. Other times it's because he's already got a doomed hometown and is hoping to find a new home. It may be that he's escaping from slavery or trying to set others free. Whatever the case, refusal of the call just isn't an option. What helps matters is some level of supernatural or visionary direction explaining where to go or how to get there and what to do. And it's time for him to set off, his eyes set on that distant, life renewing goal. The journey. The party heads out over hostile terrain. Here begins the episodic nature of the quest. The heroes face an obstacle, the heroes overcome it again and again and again. Obstacles tend to come in a few distinct flavors. Monsters. Fight them, kill them, or escape at the very least. It is like a miniature form of the overcoming the monster story. So play up the nature of the beast. Temptations. The four divisions are death, captivity, distraction, and self-indulgence. Temptations are to be resisted. Falling prey to an illusion or buying into a false story seems to fit this general pattern. Deadly opposites. Somehow or other, the hero must tread a narrow path between two dangers, and any misstep will lead to certain doom. Journey to the underworld. The climb down into the world of death and the encounter with the spirits there is a classic motif. Often, the spirits can give the hero some information about his journey that no living being could know, thus enabling him to head the right way or to avoid some upcoming danger. In between the various tests come periods of rest and succor, during which the party receives advice about the path ahead. Booker claims this is often from a wise old man and a beautiful young or ageless girl. We reach the halfway mark, and the journey part is over. But gasp, the story has a long way to go. The party is within sight of the goal, but now sees a series of obstacles yet to be overcome. A last series of tests, often following the rule of three. The final test, which is the most threatening of all, may be a test that only the hero can pass. Then there's a thrilling escape from death. The hero has won it all: treasure, kingdom, and princess. There is an assurance of renewed life stretching indefinitely into the future. Examples of journey is when the heroes are searching for an object, or they're traveling to a place. or they're on a journey to save their world.
Before we continue, please like the video, subscribe to the channel, and ring the bell for notifications. Comment below for topics you would like to be discussed in future videos.
Plot 4 is called Voyage and Return. The protagonist goes to a strange land and, after overcoming the threats it poses to him or her, returns with experience. Voyage and Return is an obvious plot for dreams. Then again, it's also one of the most common plots used in kiddie books, since it's an easy way for a kid to explore an immaturity and symbolically conquer it, secure in the knowledge that when he finally gets home, everything will be just as he left it. Nothing has changed except the kid. Anticipation stage and fall into the other world. The hero's consciousness is in some way restricted, most commonly because they are young, or because they have a serious flaw, or because they are bored, or drowsy, or reckless. It is also commonly a blow to the head or some other injury. The character regains consciousness in an alternate reality. The new world is puzzling and unfamiliar. Hence, cool! The hero explores. Booker notes that no matter how cool this whole setup might seem, it is never a place in which they can feel at home. Then the mood of the adventure starts to darken. It's not as easy as before, and options are disappearing. The hero's starting to get hemmed in. A shadow begins to intrude, which becomes increasingly alarming. The nightmare stage arrives, and the shadow takes center stage. It looks like the hero is doomed. But just when it looks like it's over, the hero makes a dramatic exit back to the world she came from. But the real question is, was there any character development? Have they been fundamentally changed? Or was it all just a dream? Children's fantasy books often have the voyage and return plot lines, like the Chronicles of Narnia and Alice in Wonderland. Going to the unknown is also another plot of voyage and return, like Mad Max Fury Road and Inception. Then there's the point where the hero doesn't want to leave, but goes on an accidental journey, like Finding Nemo and The Never Ending Story. It's also a plot for manga like Fushigi Yugi and Spirited Away. Plot 5 is called Comedy. Light and humorous character with a happy or cheerful ending. A dramatic work in which the central motif is the triumph over adverse circumstance, resulting in a successful or happy conclusion. Booker makes sure to stress that comedy is more than humor. It refers to a pattern where the conflict becomes more and more confusing, but is at last made plain in a single, clarifying event. Most romances fall into this category. Comedy, for Booker, is the grand mesh of relationships among a large cast, rooted in miscommunication. The fog of misunderstanding is maintained by some dark figure, often the hero's parent, but sometimes the hero himself. The focus of the dark energy is in keeping the hero apart from his other half. Unlike the other stories, the villain here is almost never just defeated. He is often redeemed, brought to a point where he admits wrongdoing and joyfully joins the party of the other characters released from the fog. The misunderstandings get cleared up, The relationships get properly aligned, eliminating any love dodecahedron problems, and everything gets brought to light. The plot starts under the shadow, where a little world in which people are under the shadow of confusion, uncertainty, and frustration, and are shut up from one another. A tightening of the knot happens, and the confusion gets worse until the pressure of darkness is at its most acute and everyone is in a nightmarish tangle. Finally, with the coming to light of things not previously recognized, perceptions are dramatically changed, shadows are dispelled, the situation is miraculously transformed, and the little world is brought together in a state of joyful union. Comedies are mostly romance and musicals. And of course, there's the actual comedy of comedians like Mr. Bean. Plot 6 is called The Tragedy. The protagonist is a hero with one major character flaw or great mistake, which is ultimately their own undoing. Their unfortunate end evokes pity at their folly and the fall of a fundamentally good character. Tragedy is the flip side of overcoming the monster. It is the tale of the villain spiraling down into evil and then defeating the hero. Here, release comes only with the death and destruction of the main character. The end, however tragic, is seen as just, even if we can sympathize with the villain and see some of his choices as right or forced. The anticipation stage, the hero gets focused on some unusual gratification, object of desire, or course of action. At this point, he is incomplete or unfulfilled. Like in many other stories, the tragic hero gets committed to his course of action. There's no turning back now. However, at first, things go almost improbably well for the hero, even if he's doing bad things. Nobody seems to be catching on, or even if they catch on, they seem unable or unwilling to stop him. He's getting away with it. Then things start to go wrong, perhaps very slowly, almost imperceptibly, but the hero is starting to experience difficulties and annoyances. He may decide at this point to do further dark acts which lock him into this course of action even more irrevocably. There may also appear some shadowy figure which seems to threaten him, perhaps only in his imagination. Booker describes this stage as things are now slipping seriously out of the hero's control. He has a mounting sense of threat and despair. Forces of opposition and fate are closing in on him. And finally, he is about to go down hard. This is caused by either some final act of violence or because of the various enemies he's made, the forces he has aroused against him. The tragic hero's death or destruction releases the world around him from the darkness he had wrought, and the world without him rejoices. Examples of this plot is Sweeney Todd, The Demon Barber of Fleet Street, and The Prestige. Also Death Note and Hamlet, and any iteration of Romeo and Juliet. The seventh plot is called Rebirth. During the course of the story, An important event forces the main character to change their ways, often making them a better person. As with the tragedy plot, the rebirth shares all its parts except the ending, because our protagonist manages to realize his error before it's too late and does a heel to face turn to avoid inevitable defeat. The best examples of rebirth are the stories of Despicable Me and Megamind, as well as Beauty and the Beast and Frozen. The ideas discussed in this video are based on the content standards of the Department of Education. Thank you for watching and see you in the next lesson.